Hello, I'm Alan Herriot, and I'm a sculptor from Penicuik, near Edinburgh. The Irvine Burns Club and the Barcaple Foundation commissioned me to produce a bronze to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the birth of Robert Burns, Scotland's national bard. The bronze was unveiled at the club's premises in Irvine and is given pride of place within the large recess window on the main staircase landing. The first idea was inspired by Burns's poem Tam O'Shanter, but it was felt that there were already enough references to this poem in the building, and the idea was discarded. The second idea showed Burns behind his plough, having uncovered a nest of mice, which was the inspiration for his poem Te Amus. But the idea was rejected in favour of something more original. The idea that was finally accepted shows Burns at the plough along with his hero Sir William Wallace. Not an easy concept. Wallace lived in the 13th century and Burns in the 18th. But Wallace is a great Scottish patriot whose struggle inspired the equally patriotic Burns to write "Scots wha hae where Wallace bled." So the freedom fighter and the poet would be shown as if in conversation. A unifying element was the fine stone bridge which once spanned the River Irvine. This would symbolically bridge the centuries and unite the two men with the town of Irvine. My first task was to establish a base plinth for the figure tableau to fit the window ledge. Next, I created a representation of the bridge comprising 2 full arches and 2 half arches. This produced a pleasing base design and allowed space for quotations from both Burns and Wallace. I decided that the most accurate method of producing the bridge elevation was to model one single stone buttress supporting 2 half arches. I then took a silicon mould of the section and replicated it in polyurethane resin, taking 3 casts from the mould, which were put together to form the bridge. Burns is shown leaning on the plough, deep in conversation with Wallace. For ease of modelling, I decided to make the 2 figures, the plough, the targe and the sword, separately. Placing a small block of wood below Burns's foot to represent the plough, I modelled the figure and placed it into position. Burns is wearing a working shirt, waistcoat and breeches with a stout pair of boots. Wallace is sitting on a tree stump with a large claymore and a wooden shield. He is quite casually dressed in a long simit-type garment, belted at the waist to form a short toga. Under this are leggings bound below the knee to the ankle with leather thongs. For historical accuracy, I visited East Kilbride's National Museum of Rural Life, which has a considerable collection of old ploughs. The curator kindly allowed me to photograph the relevant plough. I carved the main stock from the plough in oak. These would later be cast into bronze. All the other fittings were made from copper and brass, which were later fitted to the bronze stocks and patinated to match. Throughout the modelling process, I regularly liaised with the clients. finally, the finished plasticine model was enthusiastically approved by all on the steering committee. Now the technicians from Powder Hall Foundry in Edinburgh took over. The first stage in producing a bronze is to take a silicon rubber mould. The caster then divides the form into several sections and backs up the silicon with a plaster jacket. This holds the rubber into position. Once it's removed from the work, the separate sections can then be safely moved to the foundry, where they're laid up with wax to form hollow wax replicas of the various sections of the work. These waxes then go through a process of casing with foundry resin jackets, which allows the wax to be melted out under extreme heat, leaving a cavity which is filled with hot bronze. Once the bronze is melted into the crucible, it is poured into the cavity within the resin jackets and left to cool. The resin jackets are then removed to reveal the rough bronze sections. These are cleaned and buffed and reassembled using bronze welds skillfully chased through until invisible. Then the lettered plates are fixed into position and the whole sculpture is patinated to a dark brown with hints of green patina coming through. Surface detail is highlighted by selectively burnishing areas to reveal the bronze. On Sunday the 25th of January 2009, Irvine Burns Club congregated by Pittendreek McGilvery's statue of Robert Burns sited on the moor at Irvine. After a short wreath-laying ceremony, the company moved on to the club's headquarters, where the commemorative bronze was unveiled by the club's president, Ian Doole, and James Wilson, OBE. A rendition of Burns's song, Scots Wha Hae, added to the patriotic emotion of the moment. Robert Burns had read this quotation attributed to Wallace: "I tell you a truth, liberty is the best of all kings. My son, never live under any slavish bond." Wallace's valiant fight for Scottish independence and his tragic death prompted Burns to write, "The story of Wallace poured a Scottish prejudice in my veins." And the world-famous lines, "It's coming yet for a' that man to man the world o'er shall brothers be for a' that."